Hello, everyone. Before we begin, I wanted to take a moment to introduce our moderator for the evening, Rona Reese. Rona sits on the board of directors of WIA Vancouver. She's an award-winning performer, writer, and director with more than 27 years of experience in front of the camera and behind the mic. She is well known for her voice work, which includes animated series like The Dragon Prince, My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic, Lego Ninjago, Polly Pocket, and Littlest Pet Shop. She has also developed an original series with Wild Brain. Rona also voices video games and hundreds of commercials. In 2021, she began working as a voice director and has directed specials for Mattel, CBC, and co-directed a game for Nintendo with her colleague Adrienne Lindsay. As well as her work as a performer, Rona is an emerging screenwriter and director. And with that, I'll let her take it away.
Thanks, Emily. I always love it when someone else introduces you. It makes you sound so fancy, and it's much easier to boast that way when you just send up a bio. Before we jump in, everyone, I'd like to take a moment to acknowledge that the land we gather on in Vancouver, where I am right now, is the unceded traditional territory of the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. In Toronto, we gather on the traditional territory of many nations, including the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Haudenosaunee, and the Wendat peoples, and it's now home to many diverse Inuit and First Nations and Métis people. We also acknowledge that Toronto is covered by Treaty 13 with the Mississaugas of the Credit. We encourage you to reflect on the history, treaties, and traditional keepers of the land we inhabit, work, and play on. And with that in mind, as everyone filters in, welcome to this exciting discussion. My name is Rona Reese. As you heard, I'm extremely impressive, but even more impressive than me is our panel of speakers today. We have with us Athena Georgaklis, VP of Nelvana Studios. Can you give us a wave?
Hi, thank you.
We have Melissa Graham, Director of Production. Vanessa will be joining us shortly, Vanessa Estevez. She's the supervising creative producer. We have Nneka Myers, design artist, and Emily Choi, also a design artist. So I got off easy and Emily introduced me, but I would love if each of you could take a couple of moments to just speak a little bit about your work and how you got to where you are today. How did you get started? And tell us a little bit about your career. Athena, why don't you kick us off?
Okay, it's a long one, but I'll try and keep it short. So I have started at the very, very bottom as an assistant to the director of original content for Teletoon, Madeleine Levesque, who some of you on this call might know quite well because she was a pioneer in the industry, and I really learned from her what animation kind of content and commissioning was from the ground up, and worked for her and you know, just I literally just picked up all the things that she didn't have time to do because she was so busy as Teletoon was starting up at the time. I live in Montreal. My job was in Montreal. I was lucky enough to get a really great job like that here because Teletoon is broadcast or was broadcast in English and French. So we were overseeing the original content team. And so I worked under her for a number of years and then slowly climbed the ladder of that department until I became the director of original content. And then when Chorus bought Teletoon, I then moved over to Chorus and then started to oversee all the animation content for the kids networks at Chorus, which included Treehouse and YTV. And then a few years ago, I made the leap over to Nelvana to get my hands dirty in development and really be at the very beginning of a concept and help bring that concept to life, work with the enterprises team at Nelvana to build brands, learn the business of running a studio. And now I oversee content across development and the studio. So my job evolved and grew, and at every turn I thought this is too much. I don't know how I'm going to get to learn all of it, and it's going to be impossible. But it was all possible, and oh well. Anyway, it seems to be now. So it's yeah, it's been quite a fun ride. It continues to be.
Wow. I love that you said I started as the assistant to the director,
Right.
and then I became the director.
Right.
Can you just list a couple of the steps in between those
Right.
two?
Every
I'd love to
step in
kind of
between.
know your
Right.
journey a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that I went from assistant to coordinator to executive, development executive, production executive, and then director. There was many steps in between. And I got married, I had 2 children, I had a year off with each because we're so blessed to have maternity leave for a year. And I thought when I left for a year, that's it. My career is just going to take a pause, and it didn't. It just continued. It took a little longer to get where I wanted, where I wanted to be, but that's okay. It was worth it. And yeah, I mean, all of that. I've been in this business I graduated university in 1997, so I've been in this business for 26 years. I started out of school. So, and I'm now vice president of Nelvana Studios, a position that I hold again while living in Montreal and a studio in Toronto, mainly because the pandemic changed everything and allowed us all to prove that we can do our job no matter where we are. And here I am. But it took time. But
Yeah.
it's okay.
Incredible. And I apologize that I did not include a land acknowledgement for Montreal. I didn't realize that's
okay.
what I was in for.
Okay.
And I don't know it off the top of my head, so I do apologize. Thank you. I feel like we could just talk about those 26 years for a whole hour, but we have beautiful other guests that we would like to speak to as well. So, Melissa, would you mind telling us the Coles notes of your journey to where you are today?
Sure. I just unmuted. You can hear me, right? Okay. So I started in the industry about 24 years ago. I started out as an animator. So I graduated from Sheridan in the classical animation program, and then worked my way through some different positions at Nelvana, and then to my current role, which is director of production. So I have the privilege of working with Athena and so many other wonderful women at the company. And I currently then support all the producers and their crews. So collaborating with development as well. I'm part of a core team now that helps get projects greenlit. So get that greenlit package together. But the oversight of the productions that are in the studio, so with both 2D and CG, yeah, it's a terrific opportunity to stay connected with the artists, which is a passion of mine. So yeah, that's a little bit about me. And I live in Burlington. I miss the studio. I mean, I did the drive every day, go downtown, and it's a beautiful space, and it's nice to be able to collaborate with all the talent. So that's a bit about me.
You ever get the temptation to pick up the old stylus and just here and there?
Well, for me, that was the thing. I used the pilot project, the pilot version of Harmony when I was just starting to pivot my career. So I moved from, I did some cleanup on the artwork for 16. And then I immediately started to look at producing, just taking the knowledge from the different art roles that I had and now applying it to support the talent, but from a different perspective and supporting the creative that way. So I still do a little bit. I have to admit, I have a lot of projects started, but not completed, a few around me, but yeah. I guess it's one of those things you always want to get back into it. So I'm hoping that's in my future a bit, just for some hobby and downtime.
Awesome. Thank you, Melissa. Nneka, you're next on my list. Tell us a little bit about your journey.
Hi, so I'm a design artist at Nelvana, and I also work in the publishing industry as a children's book illustrator. I've had the pleasure for the last 9 years of my animation career to work on shows such as Ranger Rob, Esme and Roy, Thomas and Friends. And with the book side, I've worked on Bedtime Bought It, I Am Smart, I'm Amazing, Twinkle Twinkle Little Light, and a lot of other books and titles that also integrate with my day job in the animation industry. I collaborate with a lot of like-minded folks and with the early design stages of characters and all the way up to it being on the screen for what everyone watches. I've started in Sheridan College. I graduated in 2014, and I think it's been for both of my work as an illustrator and designer, it's been almost like a decade doing both, and I've been able to touch a lot of things and like layout, character design, story, and be able to like expand on my skills, and even had the pleasure of working with great women to help me elevate my career and give back to the community.
Incredible. If we have time later, Nneka, I'd love to talk a little bit about design and body image when it comes to representing women, girls, female presenting characters, and how those discussions at the design phase can really influence representation. But we'll save that if we have
Okay,
time.
that'll be the
That
bonus material.
That could be a whole nother Zoom, couldn't it?
Yeah.
Thank you, Nneka. Emily, tell us a little bit about your journey at Nelvana and how you got here.
Hi, everybody. Yes, I'm Emily Choi. I'm a character and prop design supervisor at Nelvana. I've had the pleasure of working on shows like Esme and Roy, Mysticons, Ollie's Pack, and a bunch of other things in development as well. And I've done most of that as a design artist. But currently, I'm a character and prop design supervisor on Thomas and Friends. Yeah, I've been in the industry for 10 years now because I graduated in 2013. And I've had the pleasure of working at Nelvana since 2017. So yeah, I'm a bit greener than everybody else here like at Nelvana, but I am enjoying my time there and I really love the studio and all the women that work there. So
amazing. Yeah. You've set me up with just the absolute perfect segue there, Emily. Thank you.
No problem.
So I'd love to just hear a little bit from each of you about working at Nelvana and how the culture and the structures within the organization have helped you in your career and advancing as a woman in the industry, and how, or perhaps you've seen it assist someone else along the way. How is Nelvana working to empower women in the industry? Yeah, if there's any specific examples. Athena, do you want to kick us off again?
Sure. Look, it really helps that the president of the studio is Pam Westman, and one of the very few studio heads, female studio heads in the country, and I'd say probably around the world. She's so incredibly supportive and a really good teacher, mentor, and in a way that I don't think I've ever seen before. And that kind of push to be more assertive, to ask for what we want, to really reach into the teams and make sure that there's a good balance of gender parity in all departments, and that I think is a leadership staple that helps all of us really navigate it. But even prior to Pam, I think being part of Chorus Entertainment, and we're part of this giant company, right? And we're one small part of a giant company, but there are some really wonderful programs and systems and elements in place at Chorus that support women in the entertainment business. So we've really been lucky. I think that my goal now, as I oversee the studio is to make sure we're really looking at all the elements of this business, of the studio itself, of creative. And, you know, when we used to be able to walk the floor and see everyone, there was a really good representation, I think, coming out of animation schools and talented artists, female, male, parity, diversity in the entry level and mid-level. But I think where we still have work to do is in the more senior roles that you know, we're just trying to make sure that women are getting the chance to take on leadership roles in animation, and identifying those who want to do that, right, and who have the objective and goal to take on leadership roles, and make sure that we're helping them get there.
Yeah, I think having people in leadership positions who reflect, you know, what you are, that whole, if you see it, you can be it, is just so important. And I think something I've come up against in my career, and I wonder if anyone else can speak to this, is just having the courage to put up your hand and say, I want that, and the self-belief, because I think generally as a culture, we're told, you know, as women, not to make a fuss, not to volunteer, not to be bossy, not to be pushy. So yeah, I think it's really inspiring that, yeah, like you said, you have one of the few female presidents. That's so incredible. Anyone else have something to add about the culture at Nelvana that they'd like to share? Melissa?
Yeah, I'd love to.
Thank you.
I mean, I think it's we have so many. I mean, you know, Pam definitely leads the way and is such a great example. And then we have, you know, Melanie Welsh, we have, you know, Cheryl Fullerton, Athena herself. And I think it's been really really inspiring, because what opportunities Chorus generates are ways in which these women have been able to share their stories. I think what you touched on is something that's really important, is a lot of us know how can we get there, or that must, you know, oh, I couldn't possibly, you know, join that group or join that talk. And I think when everybody is just so authentic, so welcoming, and the communication, and that's been something we want to continue to monitor and also build upon, is now that we're in a virtual environment, those opportunities are a bit tough, as we are all spread across different places and different regions. And is just making sure that we still have the chance to connect and share with one another those stories, so that people realize, you know, don't be your own roadblock, you know, just make sure that you are still being included, and look for ways to ask questions so that you can have those opportunities. And that's one thing that I find all of the women leaders at Chorus do, is they generate opportunities where the discussions can happen, and it gets you thinking. Even if you don't raise your hand and ask a question, you're ingesting all the great feedback and suggestions, and it's motivating, it's inspiring.
Love that. Nneka?
Yeah, I guess just to touch base on what both Athena and Mel said, like, I think when I first started in my career too, I was that person that didn't want to raise my hand, because it's I was afraid. And I think I've been in environments before I started my career where it's I didn't want to raise my hand because I didn't feel like my voice was valued. But I definitely feel valued being at Nelvana, and being able to share my ideas. And when we were physically in the studio, I'd be able to walk the halls and pop by people's desks, Athena, Mel, Kara. There's so many people that I'd be able to talk to, and they'd be able to listen and just give me that empowerment to keep trying and try new ways to approach certain pitches. And it just feels rewarding that it's okay, this isn't the voice that someone else is injecting in me to bring out someone else's ideas, but it's my own that I can bring for the studio and feel accomplished in that. And it doesn't feel like it's being overwritten by someone else. And it allows, I believe, a lot of women to do a lot more risk-taking things within the studio and the design, even if it is based off a project that is not specifically our own, but like for things that we want to have as our own properties and titles and be able to pitch out there, we feel we have the tools at Nelvana to like keep going and push for it and be elevated with the leadership that we have. So I'm pretty happy with where I am and just being able to talk to all these amazing women and get the feedback and getting that mentorship that I know was probably harder back then when women were not at leadership positions, and like back in the day when women would be like considered inking paint. Like I don't feel like there's like a woman job and a man job at the studio, and I feel like anything is possible if I put my head to it.
Right, we don't have animators and animatrices.
Yeah,
That's not a thing. Thank goodness. Love it. Thank you, Nneka. Emily?
Just to, I guess I can kind of like piggyback off of Nneka. I guess it's a little different because she and I are both in like the design part of the studio. And something that I did realize and find out about Nelvana is that like there are so many women in leadership positions at the studio that I didn't really think about it much before, because I've worked at several studios in Toronto. But coming to Nelvana, I've worked on multiple productions, and I've had a lot of like female supervisors, which I was like, oh, that's different. And these women, they're just like, they're so inspiring. Like I felt like I could learn a lot from them. And then they'd ask me things like, would you ever want to be a supervisor someday? And I thought, nah, not my thing. Maybe not. Just because I didn't have that like chance to be nurtured or like to grow through it. And I was like, I guess when I was younger, I was like, nah, that's not my thing. But I saw it as like, when I was at Nelvana, I saw it as an opportunity. Like there were people urging, like, you should really try. And finally, I'm so sorry, I have a bird and he's loud.
He's backing you up. He's your little cheerleader.
Yeah, he is. And yeah, just like the women at Nelvana, they were my cheerleaders. They were like, you should try it. You should really, like, on my performance reviews, like, just do it. And I finally got that opportunity to, and like, I can't believe, like, I can't go back. I just love, like my producer, like, she's amazing. Her name's Susie Gallo. And yeah, she was, ever since I first was at Nelvana, she would kind of, she was so cool, outgoing. She was so organized. And I was like, okay, that's awesome. So yeah, I'm very like happy that we're in a place where we can feel safe to just take that risk and be given a chance, and yeah, and then be like congratulated for it or just like uplifted by it. So yeah, I'm very pleased by Nelvana like allowing that,
Amazing. Well, hopefully they cheerlead with less wolf whistles than your bird.
Yeah. Oh, he went back. Good.
It's wonderful to hear the amount of gender parity in the organization and those women in leadership positions. I'd love to hear a little bit about how having women in those senior roles affects the work being produced. And I'm going to add in another one particularly for Athena and Melissa, who have been in this industry for a little bit longer. How have you seen the impact that having women in those roles has just on workplace culture in general? So yeah, two-parters for you two. How does it affect the work being produced and just the workplace culture? I'm interested in that, if you've noticed the change over the years.
Yeah, the work being produced, I'll say, I think the good news is the work is being done as efficiently and as effectively and, without pause and without delays, and, the same work ethic across the board that is kind of established by the leaders of the production teams are kept going by the entire team. So I don't know that I can answer that question as how has it affected the work. But I do know that having having a representation in teams allows for a greater understanding of what it is to juggle work and life and responsibilities, whether they're, children or parents that you've to take care of, or, school if you need to finish, it's like there is the diversity of people, the gender parity, it opens up opportunity for others who need to work differently, who can provide all the work that needs to get done, but sometimes done at off hours. Do you know what I mean? Like, I think that for so long, it was just one typical way of doing things. And it was hard to break that cycle. And it's only when we started to introduce more women in animation, when we started to introduce more diversity in animation, did we then start to see that there are different ways of doing the work, and then trying to manage all of that. I'll admit, it's hard when you have all these responsibilities and you're a woman and you're trying to catch up to something that's been established by a male-driven, kind of workforce. It's hard. I had to do that for a long time. And it's only when I started to work for women who had a family, or, who understand that there are, that we juggle a lot, that it became a little bit easier to breathe through all of it. And I wasn't trying to chase something that was impossible to reach. So I can see that from my own understanding of it. And then as I look at the teams now, and then just like that, there's also the diversity in age. There are younger teams who multitask better than any one of us do, maybe us in our middle age, and work differently. And so we all need to respect that and make sure that we understand where that's coming from. So all of it is good. And it's only in the last, I think, 15 years, maybe 10 years, that we've really seen a change. Look, I used to go to animation studios as a TV executive, and I was hard pressed to find a woman working in those studios. That was only 20 years ago. And boy, we've come a long way.
Thank goodness we have.
Yeah.
Thanks, Athena. Melissa, any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, very much like what Athena was saying is, when I graduated, I was one of 10 women who graduated in 97. So, and it was, I think that, to be very honest, that's part of the reason why I pivoted my career. I was inspired by a lot of the men who were in the roles as assistant director, supervisor. But it was also then I would always second guess myself. There's no way, I don't draw that good. I don't animate that well. So I started to, look at opportunities. Well, what can I contribute, and what else am I good at that I can apply the knowledge and the passion and the interest in seeing our representation grow. And we don't have a lot of women in director roles. We have one, and it's kind of a great, one of our projects, Millie, magnificent. So, producer, PM, I believe the coordinator, the director, Ruth, that's the kind of, you can say it's an all women cast, the leadership's there. And then I think it helps to support the culture of the team, right? Because now walking through, I'm so inspired. I was at the privilege of working with Nneka and Emily on Esme and Roy. I produced Esme and Roy, and just to see how talented they are, but also to see that there's so many opportunities for women to see around them, that they're not just a small group. They're peppered around in all the positions of the pipeline, from technical directors straight through. And I think it gives people the hope and that encouragement to keep trying. Because I'm so excited to see, and to have little conversations like that. Your stuff looks so good, and you should consider doing the following, and just keep keep that motivation happening and the support. And I think, you know, there's power in numbers. So the more women we see around us and in these roles, it's empowering. So it gives people the confidence to keep going.
Absolutely. Thanks, Melissa. Nneka, can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, maybe a bit. I probably won't have like as much as like Athena and Mel, but like I know from my experience, like I haven't had like that disparity being in the studio, like in Nelvana specifically. But I know prior to that, when I was trying to like get into the industry and just like growing up and seeing what's like who was being presented for like studios and such, I did notice that disparity, that there would be more men being highlighted and like barely any women that I would see at like leadership positions or as supervisors and such. And I guess like, as Mel said, like things were a lot different from like 15 years ago even. And even at the, like not even a studio, I used to actually work at a government agency for 2 years. And just like talking to like the management there, like you could really feel how the environment is welcoming to a degree. I had like my boss was male, and like even just discussing certain things and trying to get ideas thrown about, like they'd be accepted, but you can tell that there's that level of authority where they're like, oh well, she's just starting, or it's like, it's fine, like she could just do this stuff that we like execute later. And compared to like the rest of my team, who was actually all women, like we were probably the only like 4 for like the department that really got things going in communications. They treated me like family. Like I would always feel like my ideas were very small, and they're like, oh no, like this is amazing, like come on, this is better than the stuff that we're like paying all these other people so much. And it's like it's nice to know that, like, you know, I might be that one person, and like I might not see myself in higher levels, but my voice is appreciated, and just having them back me up to keep going and shooting higher, and just saying, you know, like they were mostly all in their like late 40s to even 50s, and they were saying, you know, like we've had our time and we had to fight for like what we have today, but just knowing that like you have all this skill, like we could see you going further than what we were able to, and we just want to like help you and see that success. And it was just nice getting that encouragement and ability to just like not necessarily lean on them, but have that support for when I needed them most, and they were willing to give their advice and wisdom. Even after I took my first steps, they were there next to me, like rooting me on and everything. And just knowing that even when I got to Nelvana, just having that same experience with all these amazing women, like even now with Emily, like I work with her and she's my supervisor. So it's just like a way to just communicate and know that just because I do things a little different, as mentioned, like I might have more responsibilities in the back. I might not be able to drop everything immediately or like not take care of family and such, but it's like understood, because it's like, okay, you know, everyone has different things they have to do, and they still achieve it. As long as the quality is there, there's no reason that someone can't do such a thing, even if they were at a higher level.
Thanks, Nneka. Emily, how's she doing? Are you supervising her on this Zoom? I think she's doing great, but that's your call.
It's my call. She's awesome. Honestly, like both as a speaker and, you know, as a designer, it's just such a joy to be able to, you know, work with your friends. Like even though we're friends, like, you know, it's something I learned through such great supervisors that I've had at Nelvana. Like I was always so admirable of these women who not only are amazingly talented at what they do, of course, like that's why they're a supervisor, but they have a lot of, you know, compassion, and they have that ability to bring the team together and go like, hey, we're a team. Like team morale is so important. And that's something that I think I've discovered once I got into this position, was that everybody's work is just so much better, and like everybody's so much more pumped when like we're all encouraging each other and like, you know, not pushing, just like if you need to like rest or whatever, just rest, but like they're still producing like amazing work. So I think that that's something that I like on the contrary, it's like I've had supervisors, not at Nelvana, just like at different places, where it was a little bit more tough, and that sort of, and I have a bit of like sympathy for like the women who are tough supervisors like that, who are a little bit like not as nurturing, but they want the work done. And I know, and I understand now, being older and also being in this industry for longer, that was such a difficult position for them because they needed to be in the boys game, right? Like we're tough, but we're like cool and stuff. So like they really pushed that, and it hurt me when I was younger. But now that I'm older, I'm a little bit more sympathetic. Like I know that that's the way that they protected themselves, and that's the way that they thought that was the right way to be a supervisor. So I don't know, just like speaking as like a designer and like as a supervisor, it's just I'm learning all these things, and I did learn all these things, and it's just great to be able to apply it like now, and then hopefully in the future, maybe like someone else, another designer will be like, I want to be a supervisor. Maybe I'll inspire them, who knows.
I think you're doing it right now, Emily.
Oh,
absolutely. I know nothing about the actual pipeline. I understand a small piece of it, but I now want to be a supervisor. I'm inspired.
Oh, good. Did my job.
I think one of the fascinating things about careers in the arts and animation is that there isn't one pathway, right? To get to any of the positions that you're in, or even that I'm in, there isn't one way to get there. And I know that for me, mentorship and networking has been a huge part of what has helped me get to where I am. I'd love to hear a little from each of you about mentorship, whether you've been a mentor, whether you've been mentored yourself, just the role that can play, networking and mentorship in advancing a career. Because I'm sure that our participants who are watching along are, wanting to know, this is great, but how do I make those connections? How do I find a mentor? How do I get the courage to put my hand up and say, yeah, I do want to be a supervisor, just like Emily. Athena, do you want to kick us off again? I'm coming to you first, or should I mix it up? I'm going rogue. Melissa, do you want to start us this time?
Yeah, maybe Melissa starts.
Yeah.
Sure. I mean, I just finished one of the programs, and that's another great thing with Chorus. They offer programs which allow you to connect and to mentor. So there's a connector program, which I am so thankful I was a part of. Because you get ideas and you get to meet people. And I think it's again about finding your voice and not being afraid, like as women, I think we have to lean into our instincts, our superpower, so if your instinct is, that's really exciting to me. And I really want to try that, but I'm afraid, or I'm not sure if I will fit in. Don't hesitate. Just reach out and ask. And then I have been very fortunate to have great mentors throughout my career, both men and women, to be honest. But the women most recently, as I've moved into producing, it's been stellar. From Pam Lane, who was my first supervising producer, went to Lynn Warner. There have been so many. Jane Crawford most recently was extremely supportive. And just the fact that I think the key with mentoring is there's nothing, everybody, they're so willing to share their journey and sharing the mistakes they made, which made them stronger, or giving you that, I guess it's just the confidence to know, like, don't let your failures or your fear of failing stop you, because it truly, I look back now 10 years ago and there's little things, and I feel badly. I mean, our great colleague, Vanessa Estevez, who the link hasn't been able to, I've worked with Vanessa for years. And that's one thing I think is I literally find Nelvana as an extension of my family. So the mentorship almost becomes like it's sisterhood, or it's, this and now I get to work closer with Athena, and just hearing everybody's journey. And it's true, you build a dam in a stream, the water finds its way to another path, and that path can be so cool and so inspiring. That mentorship is just, don't wait for someone to mentor you. Reach out and find a mentor that inspires you, because you just never know where it will lead. And I think that's the great thing about Nelvana and Chorus is we are really big, but the animation industry is big, but it's also small. So it doesn't take long before next thing you know, in 5 years, you're working with people you worked with 5 years ago. Like it keeps the connections are endless, and I think they just continue to grow. So the mentorship has been a huge piece of just consistently persevering, really perseverance, and don't put walls up, leave the walls down, because it's pretty incredible where you find yourself when you didn't think you could get there.
Yeah. And I mean, I'd love to talk about how we mentor today, because I think that's a lot different than it was, for me as I was kind of getting into this industry and learning from, my bosses at the time. And I don't know that Madeline Levesque at the time consciously mentored me. I mean, she was my boss, and I literally just, without annoying her, I hope, stuck as close to her as I could. And I picked up the overflow, and she would include me in pitches that we would receive from producers. And, I'd just listen and understand and watch her do her thing and learn from her. And it was the proximity and the being included in the room, in the conversation, that allowed me to learn all of these things. And she really set the standard for me to understand, like, if you're an executive, how do you receive a creator? And, what's the dynamic of that relationship? And she always set the standard that, the creator in the room is really the most important person in that room, and you treat them with respect, and you give them the time, and you kind of always go into a creative session with that dynamic, right? That the creative is king and queen and everything important. But I learned from that because I was in it, and I was attached to the work in a way that I hope we can still do today when we're not in the same room. I think it takes those of us who are in these positions to open the door to those who want to be a part of the conversations, who want to be in the room when we're taking pitches or giving pitches. I think it's going to take for the team, the younger, the more junior people coming into the industry, women in particular, going to take figuring out who's the generous person, like who's the leader that will give you her time or his time, and then once you figure that out, try and connect with that person and see if they will open the door for you to take part in meetings, virtual meetings, where you can learn as well. Otherwise, it's so hard, right? Because we don't see each other face to face. Like, I would go volunteer at the animation festival at the booth and man the booth and do whatever I could. And, those opportunities were there, and it was a different time. I think we all have to figure out how we keep those opportunities open in today's workforce.
Absolutely. I'm going to mix it up. Emily, you don't have to go last this time. I'm going to let you sneak in first.
Yay. Well, it's so funny because I never had, I guess I've never had a mentor, like an official mentor, but my, I guess, mentorship is through school. Like, I guess we did during school, I went to Sheridan, and in 4th year, you do get like a mentor helping you with your film. But yeah, and now that I think about it, most of my mentors or people that have been teaching me like one-on-one were men, but they were great men, and they would, recognize my potential and everything. But now, I guess, after school and all the the schooling and the beginning and stuff, now most of my mentors, I guess I could say, are my friends and people that still encourage me to draw, and everything. And having an art mentor, I'm sure it's amazing, like, for my friends who have had them. But just being surrounded by, again, like, people at Nelvana who love to draw, and yet maybe people don't or whatever, but I can learn so much from all of them that I just consider them all my mentor. And I know that I've had like a couple of people not asked to be, have me mentor them, but they asked me for tips or how to do something. And actually, I saw a friend's brother like recently for the first time in like, I don't know, 5 years or something, like pre-pandemic. And he has become like an artist, like he's fully fledged, you know. And I remember his first time where he bought the iPad and he was asking me like how to use it and everything. And he said something that I don't, maybe I'm bad, but I don't remember saying this, but he said that I said, there's no such thing as a bad artist. Like anyone can draw and anyone can just put their mind to it and you can do it. And when he said that, I was like, wow, I sounded so cool. Like it sounded like I knew what I was saying. But yeah, and now that I think about it, that's so touching that like, I think that everybody has that opportunity to learn. And as long as they're putting their mind to it and they find someone where they can learn from them, like even just asking tips or advice, like it goes a really long way. And sometimes you don't realize like what an impact you might have on somebody, right? So yeah, I just think that was such a lovely thing. And that's something that we can all learn from each other. Like it doesn't have to be like an official mentorship or like an instructor that's guiding you. It can be like everybody, and it just becomes who you are, and then you can pass it on.
Oh, I love that. I just got some good little chills there from
Aw.
that story. I also feel like mentors can learn from mentoring. When you were being asked for advice, you were forced to reflect on your journey, your position, the way you do things. I think when we're using that superpower of instinct, sometimes we're not always thinking about our processes. So I think mentorship can be beneficial to both parties. As a mentor, sometimes you are forced to go, okay, how did I reach that conclusion? Or why do I conduct myself in a certain way? So I think it can really be beneficial for both parties.
So
Nneka, would you like to share anything about networking or mentorship in your journey?
I guess for mentorship, I guess I've been lucky. I've had like a couple of mentors in my life, not specifically just for art, but like even just for life stuff. When I worked at OMDC, or Ontario Creates as it's now called, one of my colleagues, like she was like a second mom to me, and like she mentored me in a way where it's not specifically just like art and making sure I draw a certain way and such. Like she encouraged the art. She wanted to see more of it, and that like I was spotlighted when she thought I wasn't doing enough to like be valued at the company. And she's like, oh, you're gonna create these slides and they're gonna be the best. And I'd be like, I don't know what you're saying. She's like, I know what I'm seeing and you're really good. And it's like she would just put me in the forefront for a lot of things that I would never volunteer myself for. I'd be like saying, oh my gosh, but she just believed in me, and I needed that encouragement to just keep trying. And even after that point, like she's been a part of my life for like the last like 14 years now. It's just like she's been there for a long time and just like encouraging me and making sure that like I've been able to get that support. Like when it came to just getting even my first antique, she's like, I don't know how this thing works, but you say you need it to make it easier. I'm going to help you. And I know you'll pay it forward later on. And it's just like words like that just helped, like, you know, just something to like words to live by. And it kept me a long way. Like I even told her now, I'm like, I still have that antique that you helped me get. And she's like, I'm really happy. And it's like, they did get you to the things that you wanted to do in life. I'm like, oh, it's gotten me so many opportunities. Like that sweet gesture. It's like I didn't expect it of her, but she just offered because she saw that confidence in me. And it's like she became a mentor in that way, just because she just kept encouraging and saw the potential that I probably didn't see at the time because I was very young. And I was like, I don't know if I can do this. And even at that time, I didn't actually get an official mentor from school. So I had to seek out to get one myself, or like just because I felt like I was going to fall behind, not having that opportunity that other people did in like my year. And she was one of the people that encouraged me to say, you're going to sign up for this Motivarty mentorship program and you're going to get it. And I just like, she's like, you're going to just sit down, even though we have work, if you need the time and assistance like with the fatigue and other things, I'm going to encourage you to keep doing it. And I'm just going to be there along the way and see you when you sign up to even when you get in. And she was like confident. And just like having her assurance behind me to just keep going, even if I felt doubtful, it just helped me land another mentorship for school for my 4th year. And it was with a former DreamWorks artist, Griselda Sastruana. And it's like, I will never regret like not applying, and I'm so happy that she pushed me to apply, because that has been changing in itself in the art aspect. And I think with both those women, like they called me out when I was being ridiculous and doubting myself, which I really need, because I think you need that person that, yes, they like to like cheer you on, but also it's like tell you, no, like you're laughing because you're anxious and like you think you can't do it. I'm like, oh, thanks for seeing right through me. I guess so. But it's like I just needed those like strong people behind me to keep going and keep trying, because on my own I didn't really see people that looked like me to really go and shoot for these positions. And then even when I got to the studio, he was a man, but he was a curator, and he saw the potential in me, and he was like, you're a young woman and I know you could do this. Like he just saw the one picture that I submitted for a gallery show, and he was like, this is really good, like why are you not shooting higher? And I'm like, oh, wow. I'm just like, where's this person coming from? I don't know you. But it's like, it's just those people like that. It's like I it's just like timing, I guess. Like they saw something in me that I didn't, and I really value it, and I'll never regret it, because I don't think I've accomplished a lot if it wasn't for not them showing me the way, but just being that foundation and rock that I need to keep trying. And just like they're more than just in art alone, but like they would help me like learn to drive, and just saying, I know like you're probably a little timid, but it's like, I know you can do this. And it's just like those words that help me the most with these mentorships or lifelong friendships. I could say, like, even beyond those that I would consider a mentor, I believe all the friends I have now today in my circle, I've all like mentored me in some way to be the person I am and to grow and see the success I have.
I love it. I love how active everyone is in encouraging each other. I feel like I just want to jump in on all your team Slacks or whichever program it is that you use over at Nelvana and get some cheerleading of my own. I want to be part of the team. We did start a few minutes late. Is it okay if we all just go a couple minutes over? Awesome. I would just love to, before we all say goodbye, I'd love to just touch on representation. Having women in leadership positions and in creative positions. Can you share a little something about how that influences representing female, gender diverse, and non-binary characters?
Right. That's a big one. I think you.
I know it maybe is a whole separate Zoom, right?
Can I say it's a really important one? And I think when I said earlier, there are two things I think we're working on. The technical, like, it's hard to describe it, but I'm really talking about the really specific technical positions, whether they be directors, storyboard supervisors or storyboard artists, the lead teams, lead art directors, although there are more females and there's more diversity in that role, but there are still some roles that have not really either opened up to more diversity, gender parity, or beyond. And I think that that we all collectively as studios need to work on, and we're focusing on. But at Nelvana, we're doing our very best to see who's coming up through the ranks, that's showing the potential to become a director, to lead a team as an art director, and so on and so forth. On the creative side, because I oversee development, I'll say we're still not at gender parity when it comes to content creation. So there are still not enough women. I think we even just the number of women or diversity across the board that pitches is not there yet. So this is even the unsolicited pitches don't come in at any kind of balance. And I don't understand where we've gone wrong. right? Why are we still getting a majority of pitches from white men? Not because they don't deserve to be pitching, of course they should, but why, creating worlds, building worlds, and putting those concepts together and bringing them in and pitching them, we're not seeing enough diversity or gender parity there. And I think that I don't know if it starts at school, in storytelling, in these programs where we're not only teaching people how to be producers, how to be animators, how to be directors, but also how do you create an idea and have the confidence, I guess, to put a package together and come in and pitch it. Women in comedy, missing. We don't have enough comedy concepts coming from women. And yeah, so I think that that is active work that we're trying to do, and reaching out to communities, making sure we're getting pitches from people across the board, female, diverse, and that we need to continue to do that. But I say that goes beyond Nelvana. It's collective, studio collective, I think, that needs to, and I think, and already I know that other studios are doing a good job of it, but I'm seeing a tendency there that I don't love. I don't know why. It's not better.
Stay on the line. I'm going to pitch you right after this. No, I'm kidding. No, I think you're right. I think it's studio, and it's a whole societal shift that we're slowly working on.
Right.
And, I have young nieces, one of whom, if you ask her right now, all she wants to do is be an animator. But the cool thing is she's got an auntie in the business who knows incredible women. And I can say to her, like, this is a real career, and you can do this, and you can turn your passion into drawing dragons and animating them and writing these cool storylines into a path. So it's exciting. We've got work to do, but I think we are making slow progress. Folks, we are past our finish point, but I'd love to give each of you just a chance to offer any advice to our attendees, any parting words. Maybe you want to share that Melissa said, the mistakes that make us stronger. I loved that. Anything you'd like to leave as your parting words to our attendees before we sign off and give some info?
I mean, I'd love to, in a way, just piggyback on what we were just talking about is, for anyone out there who has nieces, sisters, the neighbor's daughter. And I think that's one thing that with Nelvana, we've been supporting some schools, and we're about to launch something with the Toronto District School Board, is having a presence, go out into the community, find ways to connect with very young minds and young, inspiring, women who, what are their opportunities? And I think that's what's really, really helpful. And I just, something to share with anyone listening is, just be yourself, be authentic. Authenticity is what makes, I think, our industry so unique, because the content is truly what authenticity is going to give everybody a chance to. Everybody has their story. Everyone has a story to tell. So I think for any women out there who think, well, I don't know that I could be that good, or I don't know that I could write that well, you can. Don't wait for someone to tell you. You can just find that voice inside to say you can, and then don't give up, and look for ways to just connect. And that would be my parting advice.
I'm going to jump in with a question in case someone wants to include an answer in their parting advice. We had a question from Abe, which was for men in leadership positions, what could help them in contributing to the advancement of women in the industry? So men who are wanting to help nurture the future mentors and those future leaders. So I'm just going to sprinkle that in there, just in case someone wants to add that in their parting words. Nneka, Emily, who wants to jump in? Athena?
I can just say, listen, I worked under Scott Dyer for a number of years. He actually poached me and brought me into Nelvana in development. And he was a really wonderful boss. And I think, you know, he had the power to do that, to come and say, you know what you do, you have a good reputation, come and work for me in development at Nelvana. And I don't think I would have jumped into that role if he hadn't, you know, knocked on my door. And I think, you know, Abe, it takes just, you know, observation. There are women on the teams that you work with that seem to, you know, show that they have potential for doing more, and, you know, haven't necessarily raised their hands without being asked. Ask, right? I think start there, because a lot of us don't, unfortunately, don't volunteer ourselves before the door opens. And I think it's just opening the door. And then the other thing I would say, advice to everyone, I kept myself so quiet, even though I'm loud and I talk a lot, but in meetings, and for years, I think for the first 10 years of my career, because I was afraid of not saying the right thing, or, you know, and at the end of the day, I realized you could just gotta, only when I realized that not everyone had a spectacular thing to say every single time they spoke, right? Like other people would say things that kind of fell short. I'm like, well, I'm going to say what I need to say. And if it hits, it hits. And sometimes it falls short, and it's okay. So, you know, the earlier you can do that, the better. Yeah.
I love it. Thank you, Athena. Nneka, any parting words for our attendees?
I guess just, yeah, it's like, just don't stop yourself. I think I've stopped myself a lot because I feel like I wasn't capable of doing something because I'm a woman, or like just because I felt like my idea wasn't as grand as what's out there already. But I think no matter what, whether like you're a person of color, Black, a woman, anything, I think you could just achieve whatever you do. And like the least that someone could say is just no. And it doesn't mean no because it's bad. It's just sometimes it's just not the right time, but it shouldn't shoot your motivation to keep trying. I think that's what our career and like the industry has to offer. It's like there's so many avenues and pathways to keep trying, and then you'll find yourself where you need to be eventually. It might not be immediate, but the industry is small, and sometimes it just clicks and then everything falls into place. So just don't hold yourself back.
I love it. It's excellent advice for career and life in general. Thanks, Nneka. Emily, would you like to bring us home?
Yeah, I think that like as women, as this industry that's just always shifting and always growing and always changing, yeah, just like try to always surround yourself with people who will like uplift you and will support you. And if anything happens that makes you feel uncomfortable or belittled or whatever, like talking to especially like another woman who's in a higher position, it really does help. Unfortunately, like, you know, this industry is not squeaky clean. Like there are sometimes like little microaggressions where you're like, that's not right. Like that does not feel right. And unfortunately, we have been taught to just kind of just let it go, kind of go, yeah, that's just how it is. I don't think that's how it is. And I think that us just a step is saying, no, this is not how it is. And I want to change it. So that's something I've had to learn, like put it going forth and being like, no, if something's wrong, I'm going to say it. And I'm trying not to let it bother me. If someone's like, oh, they're being too much or something, I think that putting your ground down and just being, you know, standing your ground and just being as, you know, respectful towards yourself, I think that's very important, is to just have that self-conviction and also uplift other people and encourage them to do the same. I think it's very important.
Absolutely. I think we all need to reprogram ourselves a little bit in that way, to not tamp down those instincts when they pop up. I know one I've been battling is, the use of the term guys. And I've had men tell me that that is a gender neutral term. And my response is always, so if we just switched it to gals,
Yep.
would that be a gender neutral term for that group of people who are all of different gender? Yeah, anyway.
Yeah, no, I
I could
agree
talk
with
about
you.
this stuff all night, but
Same. Yep.
we can't stay all night. And I feel like my cup is full of inspiration. I want to take a moment to thank all of our incredible panelists. Thank you so much for sharing your journeys, your wisdom, being open with us. For our attendees, thank you so much for spending the evening with us. If you would like to learn more about Nelvana, you can visit nelvana.com. And if you'd like to reach out or send your portfolio for future work, you can email Nelvana Jobs at Chorus Entertainment, short for, so chorusent.com. But I'm sure it's all on the website. Just go to nelvana.com. It'll be much simpler. And for women and non-binary folks looking to get involved with women in animation, I'm part of the Vancouver chapter, which is WIA_Vancouver on Instagram, but there's local chapters and mentorship circles all over, and I highly encourage you to get involved. It's a great organization, and I have met mentors, collaborators, friends, extended family through being a part of this organization. So thank you, everyone, again, and I hope you're full of inspiration and you don't hold yourself back.
Thank you, Rena.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, y'all.
Bye,
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.